Hey guys, Dazinar here. We're gonna try a longer edited nature video today. So for right now, I'm at Split Oak Mitigation Forest. It's one of my favorite parks in all of Florida. It's threatened by development. But today I just wanted to show you some of the pine scrub that we have around here at the southern entrance. It's just really beautiful. And then we have this little swamp forest you can see in the background over there. This pine scrub here is taken care of relatively well. It gets burned every dozen years or so. It had a burn not too long ago, so the brush here is pretty low. There's all types of brush. You've got the saw palmetto. You've got, what is this, inkberry. Right here, this is inkberry. Over here I stopped because I just had to record. I love it. Huckleberries and blueberries. It's amazing. Yeah. This is a different type of blueberry. Really cool stuff. I was trying to find you guys like a Gopher Taurus trail to see. There was one near the entrance, but I haven't been able to find another. I'm going to show you a few more places along my journey today and explain a little bit about the terrain. But this is just a pine scrub, right? All this scrubby stuff, you'd have to walk through in between all that. And it's used to fire. It burns every once in a while. In the wild, the scrub can get, pretty high, up to tens of feet, and then a fire will eventually come through and, cut everything down to size essentially and give things time to grow. So here we have an actual Gopher Taurus. It's way better than just finding tracks. I'm talking quieter. I don't want to disturb it. I don't really want to get too close to. It's got some damage on its shell there, but this guy looks really fat. I couldn't tell you if it's a male or female. I'm not a big expert. I could tell you that sometimes they track them and they drill holes on the little outside of their shell. That doesn't harm them, but I don't want to stress it out and get close. So these are, I believe, still federally threatened species in Florida. They're a keystone species as well, which means that they without them in the environment, lots of other species will start disappearing, because these guys make burrows in the ground, and these burrows are useful for other species throughout the year, and especially useful during forest fires. So the other species will all go into these old burrows and survive the fires, and without these turtles, which they're endangered because instinctually when they hear disturbance they try and burrow down. And so with all the land development over the last century, we've essentially just paved over these guys and they just die. And it's biodiversity, habitat loss, my bad. So habitat loss is the main reason that we're losing these guys, and we need these ecosystems intact. Those food webs that get talked about or got talked about in elementary school, middle school, you remember those guys? If you're a boomer like me, well, those are all coming undone around the world, and even here in the United States, whether people want to believe it or not. Our ecosystems are unraveling because certain keystone species, certain organisms are just disappearing, and they're not in the same numbers, and that affects the entire ecosystem, the entire web. Those little, where it's a whole bunch of little creatures all tied to each other, and the alphas are at the top or whatever, that bullshit, like the basics of ecology that they do teach in middle school. That's under attack, and it's because of us, and we got to stop it, and we want to stop it as a whole. But it's really the corporations and the politicians that they bought off that keep it going, because their bottom line is interested in us continuing as much as possible to do the same thing. We can kind of go in the direction that we want to go, but we have to mainly go in their direction so that they can keep making money. And that's got to stop. We got to stop it. We got to stop it. Got to stop it. Further up trail, the pines are really starting to take over here, becoming more of like a pine flats with less scrub. Scrub here does get burned, but it just doesn't recover as well due to the heavy understory of the tree. Heavier. It's mesmerizing is what it is. You come out here and you just see lines of trees, these skinny pine trees, just they seem to stretch on. Up a little ahead, I think there is some oak scrub, an oak scrub island, which is disappearing habitat here in Florida. And I'll try and show you that. And I plan to take us to the sawgrass, which marshes in general are also a disappearing ecosystem here in Florida due to the changes in the hydrology that we've made over the last 100 years. Alright, so we made it to the oak scrub islands, and these are generally a lot drier than the pine flats because they're slightly on higher elevation. It's like sand hills in a way. See the pine flats out there and the pine scrub, and then you get over here and there's a lot less scrub, and you can kind of just walk around. There's a couple pine trees, but they're not dominating. What you see dominating are different types of dwarf oaks. You don't even see a lot of saw palmetto back here. This is a dwindling habitat here in Florida too. As you can imagine, something like this would be really easy to just transform into spaces for homes with just a bulldozer instead of fighting off thousands of trees. You just have these oak shrubs. Some of them turn into oak trees, you know, you get a few live oaks in here. But generally they're just a dwarf variety of oak, and they grow like that and can get up to 30 feet or so, and that's just so much easier to take out. So this is a dwindling habitat, and wouldn't you know it, there are some pretty unique species that will go missing, like the Florida scrub jay. This is a beautiful blue jay here in Florida, and it's endangered, I believe. I'm not sure if it's federally threatened, but it relies on these types of ecosystems, and they're dwindling. And the gopher tortoises love them too. If I walked around here, I'm sure I could find some gopher tortoise burrows. It's just really easy for them to start digging here versus in the brush, but they'll do the brush too. Okay, so the last stop for today is the Sawgrass Marsh, and I'll talk about that too. Oh, don't mind me. Just enjoying my favorite treat here in the park. Wild blueberries. This whole field right here is filled with huckleberry and blueberry. So we made it to the marsh. And the marsh is the Florida Saw Marsh, to be specific, sawgrass. These marshes are also a disappearing ecosystem here in Florida because we changed the hydrology. We built canals, we built ditches, and we, you know, diverted water from its natural areas to the man-made canals and into the lakes. And we made the canal system. And what that did is it stopped the sheet of grass that used to flow over Florida seasonally, and it would restock marshes like this. Now specifically, this marsh is super lucky. It sits at such a low elevation, and it's so on the north side and on the south side, it creates this sort of a basin. So everything on the north side kind of flows northward, and everything on the south side kind of flows southward from here. But all the streams and nearby marshes around here, the water kind of flows into this specific marsh. So according to the research one of my friends has done for her master's degree, this marsh is actually not losing any land space, which is miraculous. Because according also to her study, most marshes in Florida are, and the rest of the marshes in the park are also shrinking. So that sucks. There's something that could be done about that, but we have to regain control of our politics. We have to get a hold of our corporations and the people with the most money, like the developers. The developers are really who are essentially destroying our landscape here in Florida, building new homes for us to live in. Really, it's just a money scheme for them and the construction workers and everyone that, you know, piles behind it, you know, that makes a job out of it. But it's at the detriment of our ecosystems, like, completely. These spaces are disappearing, and those developers don't really care. You know, it's all about money, and most local governments need increased tax revenue, and that couldn't come from property taxes. So they give the A-OK on these projects that destroy places like this, or want to put roads through places like this. So the only way we can, you know, save slices of our ecosystems at this point, you know, and maybe give it a chance to recover, is to gain a control of our politics. And you have to get money out of it, probably, and get politicians who are committed to getting term limits set up. And that way the people with the money won't have the ability to corrupt our entire government. Well, we went over 3 ecosystems today: the pine flats or pine scrubs, the oak scrub, and the Florida Saw Marsh. Now, of these 3 ecosystems, just the Saw Marshes and the scrub oaks are disappearing ecosystems. The pine flats are relatively safe. It just depends on what type of pine you're talking about. Certain pine, like longleaf pine, is an endangered species here in Florida, when it used to spread throughout the entire southeast of the United States, and now it's only limited to, like, a certain amount of acreage of land here in Florida. I know it's dwindling, and it's sad, but like I said, we have a chance if we can somehow stick to that idea of defunding election process and money in politics, and siphoning the power away from the corporations. We can get a hold of this, but that's really what we have to do. All right, I hope you guys liked this one. It'll be a little longer than most nature videos, and it had a little philosophy and ethics and ecology put into it. Like, comment, subscribe. Hey, you know I love reading the comments. I really do. Like, even if it's just one comment on the video, that even if it's just something stupid, like, you know, it makes me happy. So do what you do. I appreciate it. Appreciate this. I hope you appreciate this too. Take care. Love you guys.